Having some issues with my diesel heater. Just wondering if the exhaust is supposed to be glowing red like that. Oh, that's flames. I'm glad it was out here when that happened, because that could have been very bad. It's wonderful. What's up, everyone, and welcome to Lowered Expectations. Thanks for lowering your expectations and hanging out with me here. I do appreciate it. I apologize for the noise of the heater in the background. I am currently running some tests, and so we're just going to have to deal with that. Before I get into the safety warning, I wanted to say a huge thanks to everyone who subscribed. In my last video, I told you guys that I was approaching the 1,000 subscriber mark. I asked for some help and you guys definitely pulled through, so thanks to everyone who's been subscribing all along and who has got me past the 1,000 subscriber threshold. Hopefully YouTube jumps into gear and starts monetizing my videos, because that is much needed. Now for the safety warning. I am going to be doing some experiments with my heater. I have been doing some experiments with this heater, and I would suggest that you don't try doing anything that I do. The point of these videos is to show you guys that this can be difficult, it can be dirty, it can be dangerous, and I have been struggling. So, follow your manufacturer's recommendations, whether that be the fuel that they tell you to burn, the way that they tell you to install it, or the way that they tell you to use it. At the end of my last video, which was part 6, we removed the heater from the case, mounted it on its side on my shelf, and I mixed up a batch of 1/3 diesel to 2/3 motor oil, and that's where this video begins. We're gonna find out the results of the testing from that, and we're also going to do a bunch more testing. So stay tuned for that. It seems as though maybe there's a bunch of oil in the intake chamber, and that is slowing down the fan. Either that or there's definitely something wrong with the controller or the motor, because the fan speed has been acting erratically. But I think what's going on, because I have it tipped on its side and because I'm burning a diesel waste oil mix, some oil has gotten into the inlet of the burn chamber. The motor is really hot. In fact, the motor is quite a bit hotter than the housing itself. This was sitting in there, yes, this was sitting in there this way, and the oil would have pooled down in the bottom here, and there's not much clearance there, so it would have gotten on the fan, and the oil is quite thick, so it would cause quite a bit of drag on the motor. I now have the burn chamber out of the heat exchanger, and you can see there's quite an oily mess around the top, and there's a little bit of carbon stuff, I don't know what it is, sulfur maybe, in around there. And this is less than 24 hours of use, and that's what the burn chamber looks like. I believe this stuff is going to chip away pretty easy, but I guess we'll find out together in just a few minutes. Well, it's fairly solid. I know you guys can't see much, but oh yeah, that's sulfur. That's sulfur. You can smell it and taste it. Some of it's sulfur anyway. Cool. All right, I'll come back when this is all cleaned out. I pulled the fan off to clean behind it. It came off quite easily. I just grabbed the other fan, grabbed this fan, and turned them back and forth a little bit while pulling on this fan here, and it popped right off. I've already cleaned it out, so now I'm just going to put it back together. I just wanted to show you guys. I now have this cleaned up as much as I'm going to clean it. I've also cleaned off the fan, and I'm ready to assemble this, but I've decided that I'm not going to use the baffle on there just to see if it helps at all. And it's all hooked up and ready to be test fired. As you can see, the heater is back apart. This is probably the quickest I've ever had to take it back apart before. It wouldn't actually start, and I think the reason for that is that there's not enough back pressure from the baffle being on here to force any air through the initiation hole. Anyway, the way that this is supposed to work, I believe, is the glow plug is in there, the fuel comes in here, and a little bit of air goes through here. It mixes with the hot diesel fuel, which ignites on the glow plug. That goes down into the chamber and starts burning and goes into the burn chamber. And so, yeah, if there's no baffle on here to restrict the airflow a little bit or to cause a little bit of back pressure in this area, then the air won't go in through the initiation hole, which means the fire won't start. I did have it running with no baffle on it before. I think I was burning a very high percentage of gasoline, which ignites a lot easier than oil and diesel. So I think that's what was going on. Anyway, I am going to put the baffle on, put this back together, and we will see if that was the issue. So I think that's pretty clear. They don't like to start without the baffle. Who knew they needed all the parts to work? It has been running for about 15 hours. It is minus 10 outside and it is 15.5 degrees Celsius in the garage. It has burnt almost a full tank of fuel. It's getting down. We'll actually go up there in a second, but it's a little bit loud, so I'll do most of my talking back here. I've been running it at setting 6. I had to switch it over to Alpine mode, but then it was running too lean. And so then I put a piece of rag over the inlet. So it is now running on Alpine mode to make it more lean, and then with a piece of rag over the inlet because it was running too lean and it would just cool off and then flame out. I thought I would slide in here to tell you guys that the last time that you saw me choking this thing in a test, it was because I was burning a very high content of gasoline with a mix of motor oil. I had to do that just to keep it running, so this test is a little bit different because we're actually burning 1/3 diesel, 2/3 motor oil, and the reason why I'm choking it is to try to make a correction to the air-fuel ratio. The last test was basically to try to keep it running because the gasoline would make it just flame out. This test, we're trying to correct the air-fuel ratio to see if we can make it burn clean. So right now we've burnt through almost a full tank of fuel, and I'll go up here and show you guys. The exhaust temperature seems to be quite a bit lower, but the air temperature itself coming out of the unit is still fairly high. So I think it's burning more efficiently with more of the burn happening actually in the combustion or the burn chamber. So if we take a look at the controller, you can see it is in Alpine mode. We've got the Blue Mountain and it's 206 Celsius, so it's throwing out some pretty hot air. It's been running that way for about 14 hours, pretty consistent. And normally when it's burning that hot, the exhaust is up around 230, 240, and this pipe gets extremely hot. So this right now is 52 Celsius, and the exhaust, I don't know that you guys will be able to see this, but right at the main pipe, it is about 200 Celsius. Feel free to tell me so in the comments, but I do realize that an infrared thermometer does not work well on shiny objects. That's why I have a couple of pieces of masking tape on the ductwork, as you will see throughout this video and in some of my past videos. So when I'm measuring the temperature of the exhaust, it is basically a reference point. So I checked it a few days ago. Unfortunately, I didn't film it, but I checked it a few days ago when I had this running on normal mode, so not on the Alpine mode. It was putting out about 198 Celsius out of the nozzle, or the body temperature was 198 Celsius, and the exhaust was running about 239, 240, so more of the heat is actually going into my room instead of out the exhaust. And yeah, that obviously makes it safer to use as well. So I think what I actually need is a programmable controller, or a controller where I can control the fan speed and the oil feed or the fuel feed independently, because that's basically what I'm doing here now, but I'm doing it mechanically instead of electronically. So anyway, I'm gonna pop some more fuel in it, and I guess the next thing you guys will see is me telling you whether or not it worked, or maybe showing you inside the chamber and showing you all the carbon that's in there. I suspect that it's still probably burning fairly sooty, and I'll have to clean it out in no more than a couple of days, but I'm gonna keep running it this way. It's running fine, so I'm just gonna keep doing it and let you guys know what happens. There's one more thing that I thought that I would show you guys. I don't know if you remember a few videos back, but I showed smoke rolling out of the side of my garage, as it's actually the intro, the first video in this series, the smoke rolling out when I turn the fan on. Anyway, we're gonna go out to that same spot and point the camera and see if we can see any smoke coming out whatsoever. A bunch of people have pointed it out. I thought it was pretty obvious when my exhaust caught on fire that this was not the proper thing to do, but just in case I have to say it, just in case it's not 100% clear, this isn't safe. The way I have my heater set up is not safe, so don't do this. Set yours up properly. I don't see anything at all. Very clean. So apparently it's burning quite clean how it's burning right now. All right, I was just filtering some oil and I came over to check on this, and the temperature had dropped to 166. So I'm not sure what happened, but it's up to 170 now. If I actually put it into not Alpine mode, we'll see the temperature go up quite quickly, but it will probably also make the exhaust temperature go up quite a bit. So yeah, we're up to we're up to 230, 240. Okay, guess what? I'm back. And all the doors are open because the garage was filled with smoke. Tried to restart the heater. It shut off. I tried to restart it. And tried a few times and gave up. So I am now going to pull it down off the shelf, take it apart, and show you guys how much carbon is in it after how many ever hours. The last time I updated you guys, I think it said it was 14 hours, and I filled up the tank at that point. It has burnt that much more, and it stopped working altogether. I had been telling you guys that it was working quite well and whatnot. Anyway, right after that, it stopped working. Hopefully the camera can pick up on that pretty well. If you're burning diesel, I pretty much guarantee you that your chamber is not gonna look like this. This is a result of a lot of crud that is in waste motor oil, and these are the type of problems that I've been having. So I'm going to clean this stuff out. I apologize to anyone who may not want to sit through this test again, but I've decided that these results are invalid. I've decided that for two reasons. The first reason being that when I started it, it flooded quite badly and didn't want to start, and then it shut off when I wasn't around and flooded quite badly again. So that is why there's a big oily mess inside the burn chamber, and that is also why I've decided these results aren't valid. We have to do it again. I promise it won't take long, and the results are worth seeing, so stick around. It has been maintaining around 180 Celsius, 182 Celsius. See if you guys can see that there. In mountain mode, setting 6, 182 Celsius. It's been staying really steady. So I'm going to carefully add some fuel to it. Try not to mess anything up, but first we'll check the temperature here quick. Okay, that was 100 earlier, so I'm happy with that. 65, 66, and oops, that is 51, so 3561. Okay, that is good. We'll come back in the morning and see what this thing is saying. See if it's still running, see how much fuel it's burnt, and see if it's making any weird noises or anything. As of now, it seems pretty good. All right, folks, it's the next day. It's only -6 outside today. I'm gonna take a look before I go in the garage, see what, whoa, that's too bright. See what the fumes look like. There's definitely some coming out. That's definitely fumey. Let's go take a look inside. Oh, I think it might have just flamed out. Okay, so it had been running quite well, and I came out to check on it. It was just showing, when I was in the house, it was 192 or something like that. Okay, so instead of fussing around with it, what I'm gonna do, I just turned it off of Alpine mode for a couple seconds, but instead of doing that, fussing around with it and causing it to flood itself, it's been running all night. What I'm going to do is take it apart. It's still running, but I'm going to take it apart and see what has built up inside there, or yeah, what the deal is. So it has been running quite well, and all of a sudden the temperature started to drop suddenly. It was 192 when I was in the house. I came outside and it dropped all the way to 166. It is angry. I'm going to shut it down and take a look inside. What I'm actually going to do is shut it down and take a look inside and see if there's anything obvious. I'm assuming it's going to be full of carbon, but we're going to take a look and see if there's anything obvious as to why it the temperature started to taper down. Quick side note and update for you guys, I ordered a different controller last night. I'm hoping that it will work for starters, and I also hope that it has the functionality to be able to control the fuel mixture. So fan speed independent of the, use your words, Joel. I hope that it's able to control the fan speed independently of the amount of fuel that it's pumping. So anyway, I'm going to shut this down now. It sounds like it's going to shut off on its own if I don't. So I'm going to shut it off, and then the next thing you guys will see is it apart. So this thing has been shutting down for quite a while. I think it's actually still burning, but the fuel has shut off quite a long time ago, which means that there's a bunch of fuel built up in the chamber. I'll bring the camera in and hopefully you can hear it. I shut it off, went in the house, grabbed my hat. It is still 100% burning and throwing out quite a bit of heat. But it's now been off for about 3 or 4 minutes at least. I'll check the time on the clip to see, but you can quite clearly see it is still burning. Oh, it's just about to go out. All right, folks, the results of the experiment are in. After about 14 hours of running on 1/3 diesel, 2/3 waste oil, and running in Alpine mode with the air restricted down a little bit, these are the results. It is quite shocking. 14 hours of use. It kind of looks like a lot of that stuff is pretty soft. We'll find out in just a second here. I'll chip away at that and yeah, get it cleaned out. I'm sure you guys who watch my videos have seen this a dozen times before at this point. It'll be quite interesting to analyze this stuff and see what it actually is. I feel like that yellow stuff might be sulfur or contain a lot of sulfur. I'm going to smell it and see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't smell anything this time around. I have smelled sulfur in it before. Anyway, it's not terribly soft, but it's not terribly hard. The camera probably doesn't pick up the color on it very well. It's kind of a straw tan color. Quite unfortunately, this stuff is harder than I expected. Or at least the stuff that I've chipped away so far was a little harder than I expected. So that means I'm probably going to have a real good hard chunk of it down in here, which is going to be a pain in the butt to remove. But I've done this lots, and I can do it again. Hopefully the camera can see down inside there as good as I can. I've cleaned out the main part of the burn chamber, and this is as far as I'm going to go with it. If you want to make yours spotless and spend a whole lot of time scraping it out and cleaning out with oven cleaner or combustion chamber cleaner or something like that, then have at it, go nuts. But this is as far as I'm going with mine. I am still not done though. I still need to clean in behind this lip. I saw a video where a guy showed that he could actually remove his lip. I think that was a freak thing and they just didn't weld it in place. I think this weld is actually supposed to hold that baffle in place, but he got lucky and he could actually just slide his out and clean out behind there. If you are that lucky, then congratulations, but mine doesn't come out. And so I've got to get this 90-degree pick and get in behind there and scrape all that stuff away. This is where the main part of the burn happens, so you want to make sure that it is nice and clean inside there. I also saw a video where a guy showed that his had a screen down inside of there, or a wire mesh down inside of there. Mine does not. And I know that it doesn't because I've removed the baffle from this side, as I've already told you guys. I removed the baffle to clean it out, and what I was cleaning was these air feed holes. This is where the air goes in to support the combustion. And if these aren't clean, you're not going to have a very good burn. This is where the air comes in and mixes with the flame, and so you need to make sure that that's clean. So I know there's no screen there because I can push this pick through and I'm actually touching the outer wall and I can feel a nice smooth surface. So there is no mesh or any kind of screen stuff in there at all in my burn chamber. I know this is going to come as a shock to some of you, but I am human and I do in fact make mistakes, and this is one of those times. I wanted to jump in here and tell you guys that this is future Joel, who has actually cut open his burn chamber, and there is a mesh inside of my burn chamber. The reason why I threw this clip in here is because I've actually told a few people in comment sections on my video and a couple other videos that there is no mesh, and so I wanted to correct things. There is a mesh inside of my burn chamber. I cut it open in the future, and you guys will get to see that. Let's get back into this. I apologize, I was wrong. I have a mesh inside of here, which is going to be a bugger to get out for me, so I'm not going to show that on camera. But there is a mesh that goes in around the glow plug. The idea is that the fuel comes in through here, goes onto the mesh and spreads out and makes it easier for the glow plug to ignite. A small amount of air goes in through this hole, which is the flame initiation hole. The glow plug is in here, plugging that off, so the fire starts in around the mesh and the glow plug, goes down into the burn chamber, and then the majority of the burn happens inside of this burn chamber. David McLucky made a very interesting video where he actually chopped the end off of one of these heat exchangers and put a piece of heat resistant glass over the end, and then he filmed the burn actually happening down inside of the chamber. It's pretty cool, so go check that out. Well, that was kind of miserable. I don't know how, but my mesh managed to work its way way inside of the chamber, or inside of the threaded hole. And it was a real pain in the butt to get out, but I did manage to get it out without damaging it. So now I'm going to clean it off with a blowtorch. If you're burning diesel in your heater, then very likely it will not flame up like this unless you've had a serious issue with flooding. As you guys can see, what I've been trying hasn't been working so far. We just got done testing the heater on Alpine mode with a little restriction over the inlet for the combustion air. And we've done a couple of other tests using the 1/3 diesel to 2/3 waste oil mix. The first test that I did was trying running it on Alpine mode. It ran too lean, which made it run so cool that it actually flamed out. Then I tried running it on the normal mode, which gave it too much fuel and caused it to run really hot. The exhaust burns really, really hot and it carbons up really quickly. And so that's why I eventually moved on to trying it on Alpine mode to lean it out and then restrict the airflow to try to get the mixture reasonable. But you guys just saw the results of that. After 14 hours, I took it apart and there was a whole bunch of stuff inside there. So what I'm going to try next is burning that same mixture of 1/3 diesel to 2/3 waste oil. And I'm going to try restricting the airflow over the body of the heater. This is a recommendation of one of the viewers who left a comment. I think he said he was doing this on a boat. Anyway, basically the idea is that if you restrict the airflow over the body of the heater, you can raise the temperature, and that extra temperature will help make it a cleaner burn. I think that this is flawed logic, but instead of just guessing at it, I'm actually going to give it a go and see what happens. Congratulations for making it all the way to the end of another video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me here. I do appreciate it. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure to do so and join the legends who subscribed and got me over that 1,000 subscriber threshold. A big thanks also to everyone who's been getting involved, leaving comments, leaving me suggestions, giving me safety warnings, and leaving thumbs up. All that stuff really does help, so thank you very much. Thanks for getting involved. I do appreciate it. We made it through another batch of testing. In the next video, we're gonna do some more of that. And I also hope to have a really big announcement for you guys where I'm getting involved with a company. Stay tuned for that. It is very exciting stuff. If you guys want to check out my other channel, I do jet ski stuff. That is the Joel Arsenault YouTube channel, link in the description below. I also have a Teespring store where you can purchase jet ski styled merchandise, which I have designed myself. And I also have a Patreon account. If you guys want to get involved in any of that stuff, links in the description below. Thanks so much for hanging out with me here. I will see you next time.